This engine that they're lifting up is a 177 cubic inch engine, but it only has very low compression. It's a 4-to-1 compression engine. This engine makes a whole 20 horses. It's 4-cylinder, and the transmission behind it is called a planetary transmission. It is the forerunner to today's automatics. The way you see these guys building this car here is actually the way Ford built all cars until the end of 1913. 5 guys it took to assemble a car. 1 guy to go get parts, the other 4 to assemble it. The Model T took 9.5 man-hours to assemble using this way. In August of 1913, Ford started experimenting with the final assembly line. By April, he had it perfected to the way he wanted it. He went from 9.5 man-hours to 93 man-minutes to build a car. Yes, that is quite a difference. Two minutes, guys. Tom. One of the questions I'm asked, were all Model Ts black? The first Model T was built in 1909. In 1909, you could not buy a black Model T. They came in blue, red, or green. But the blue and the green was so dark it was almost black. By the end of 19, all the Model Ts were green. By the end of 09. In 1912, he moved to a blue car. And then in 1914, when the assembly line started, that's when he went to black. It said that he went to black because it was the fastest drying. And it was called Japan Black. We can't hardly replicate what it was because the records there are no real records showing what the true colors were. Anybody got any questions on it? Model T is supposed to get about 19 miles to a gallon. That's because a Model T is really a light car, even though that's a very underpowered engine. This touring car here weighs about 1,200 pounds. My 1925 weighs 1,650 pounds. That's with a starter and demountable wheels. Ford, when he started his company, the Ford company that we know today was actually the third car company that Ford helped to start. The second company that Ford helped to start we know today is the Cadillac Motor Company, part of GM. Ford went bankrupt in the first two, or the companies went bankrupt and Ford parted ways. He incorporated his original car company, the third one, in 1903. Okay, guys, we're at 4 minutes, 30 seconds. When Ford started his car company in 1903, he started building a car called the Model A. Yes, sir. What is it worth today? That I can't tell you. That's about it. I can tell you that my 1925 Touring, I have it insured for $16,000. Could I get that much for it if I sold it? I don't think so. The Model T is one of the cheapest cars that you can buy. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, say that again. Materials used for the first Ford cars, mostly steel, mostly carbon steel. By the time the Model T came around, Ford had a new thing that he had gotten from a French. He'd seen a wrecked French race car, and he found that it folded up different than most modern cars with carbon steel. So he checked it out, and it was something called vanadium steel. He bought the rights to vanadium steel, and that's why the Model T can be made so lightly, but yet very strong. What about the hemp-based car? That hemp-based cars, Ford experimented with hemp and soybean in the 20s and 30s. He also found that it really wasn't a viable product. Now, that being said, most of the steering wheels from the late teens and all the 20s was made of a soybean-based plastic, okay? But also it's thought that Model T's 6 minutes, 33 seconds, but it's also thought that Model T's were made to run on alcohol. Ford experimented with that. He found that the cost of actually producing the alcohol next to the cost of what it made to produce gasoline was not viable, plus alcohol really creates other problems inside an engine that Ford did not feel was worth addressing at the time. As I was saying, in 1903, when Ford started, he built the Model A, which was a lot like a horseless carriage. He built the A, B, C, F, K, the NRS before he built the Model T. And that's how the Model T got its name. It was just part of the alphabet. Okay, we cannot start it, but we're pretending. You got to put the hood on. Got to put the hood on. Seven minutes, 47 seconds. And there we have a real Model T. Like I said, if we were outdoors, we would actually start this car and drive it. Unfortunately, they won't let us do that inside this building. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to know about the Model T or the Ford company, come on over and ask. I'll be glad to answer it. Thank you.